Is everything we thought we knew about Taehyung and Jungkook a lie? The world of K-pop thrives on rhythm, visuals, and the unbreakable bond between idols and fans. But even within this dazzling universe, nothing has captivated audiences more intensely in recent months than the whispers, the silence, the glances, and the invisible thread that seems to link BTS's Kim Taehyung and Jungkook beyond what the public eye can explain. Are they feuding? Are they closer than ever? Is there a secret that Big Hit doesn't want us to know? You might have noticed something. The subtle shift. The way they now stand just slightly apart during group photos. The brief eye contact that seems to tell a story. The lack of spontaneous live appearances together. The internet is ablaze, ARMY is divided, and speculation has never run hotter. But what if the real story isn't what you think? What if the truth is far more emotional, perhaps even heartbreaking, than fan theories or tabloids dare to reveal? Ever since BTS took their Chapter 2 break to focus on solo projects and military enlistments, fans have been following each member's journey with passion and dedication. Jungkook exploded onto the solo scene with tracks like 7 and Standing Next to You, proving once again why he's dubbed the Golden Magne. Taehyung, with his velvet voice and cinematic artistry, offered a completely different flavor with his Layover album, showcasing his inner world like never before. But as their individual lights shined, something in their shared spotlight dimmed. In the golden days of BTS group content, Jungkook and Taehyung, fondly called taekook by fans, were often inseparable. Whether laughing during V-Live sessions, whispering in the back during award shows, or simply vibing during run episodes, their chemistry felt effortless, unscripted, real. But in the post-hiatus content, that dynamic became noticeably more restrained. Some fans attributed it to natural growth, others to overbearing management, and some to something more personal, possibly even painful. In one unforgettable moment during a fan sign event, a fan asked Jungkook about Taehyung. His answer was polite, almost too rehearsed. "He's doing well. We talk sometimes." That's it. No teasing, no smile, no warmth that would have once made ARMY's hearts flutter. The chill in his tone was a mist. It was dissected, frame by frame, until the silence between words grew louder than the statement itself. Then came the bombshell. During a behind-the-scenes documentary, an offhand comment made by Taehyung, perhaps not meant to be included, slipped through the editing cracks. "I wish we talked more," he said quietly, his expression unreadable. It was a raw moment, unpolished, honest, and for millions watching, deeply confusing. If Taehyung wanted to talk more, then why weren't they? What happened? Suddenly, the mystery deepened, a flurry of theories emerged, perhaps creative differences. Jealousy over solo successes? A clash of personalities, once complementary, now conflicting? Or perhaps the burden of growing up under the same microscope for a decade has finally taken its toll. After all, BTS didn't just live together, they became each other's worlds. And what happens when that world starts to fracture? There's another side to this story, a quieter one. One that doesn't scream in headlines, but whispers in gestures. During a surprise live earlier this year, Jungkook paused when a fan mentioned taekook. He smiled. Not the full grin that lights up stadiums, but a small, nostalgic smile. "We've been through a lot," he said. "A lot of things that people don't see." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. That one sentence cracked open a door to something deeper, maybe even painful. In recent weeks, subtle signs have emerged that the frost might be thawing. Taehyung posted a photo of a coffee cup on a piano, tagged simply JK. Nothing more.
No caption. No explanation.
It was enough to set Twitter ablaze. Then, Jungkook mentioned in a fan Weverse reply that Taehyung gives the best music advice. And just like that, the wall that seemed so tall began to show cracks. What's really going on? The truth may never fully be revealed, not in the way fans want, wrapped in a tidy narrative. Relationships, especially ones formed under such intense pressure and constant scrutiny, rarely follow a predictable arc. Taehyung and Jungkook are no longer the boys who debuted wide-eyed in 2013. They're men now, artists, individuals. And perhaps that's the most important truth of all. Their journey is not one of betrayal or bitterness, but evolution. Growing up is not always clean or quiet. Sometimes it means stepping away to breathe. Sometimes it means unspoken hurt. Sometimes it means silence. But more often than not, it means love transformed, not gone, just different. And if ARMY has taught the world anything, it's that love, real love, doesn't always need to be visible to be strong. So next time you wonder what happened between Taehyung and Jungkook, maybe ask this instead. How much of their bond was always theirs, and not ours to define? As Jungkook said once, long ago, some things are more beautiful when you don't explain them. And maybe, just maybe, this is one of those things that lets continue the story, diving even deeper, peeling back the layers of history, emotion, and fame. Because to truly understand what might be happening between Taehyung and Jungkook, we must revisit not just the present silence, but the roaring past. The journey from boys to brothers to strangers, perhaps back to something stronger, from debut to destiny. The rise of taekook. It all began in 2013. 7 boys, 1 dream. Taehyung and Jungkook were the youngest, thrown together in a storm of rehearsals, expectations, and dorm life. They weren't close at first. In fact, they were opposites. Taehyung, quirky, spontaneous, mysterious. Jungkook, shy, observant, disciplined. But sometimes, contrast creates connection. And slowly, without trying, they became magnetized. And behind-the-scenes clips from their early years. The moments were subtle but unmistakable. Taehyung sneaking snacks to Jungkook. Jungkook watching Taehyung sleep with soft amusement. Late-night giggles that felt like secrets shared without words. The way they looked at each other, it wasn't scripted, it wasn't PR. It was real. And fans noticed. Taekook became more than a ship. It became a phenomenon. But fame complicates everything. The pressure of being watched as BTS rose to global stardom. The closeness between members, particularly Taehyung and Jungkook, became a double-edged sword. Fans wanted more. Content producers wanted to feed the demand. And slowly the line between reality and performance began to blur. Did management intervene? Some ARMY believe so. There were long-standing rumors that HYB discouraged members from engaging too closely with one another publicly for fear of shipping controversies. Others believed the distance was self-imposed, a protective wall to guard what had become too precious to display. Taehyung once said in a live, "There are moments I want to share, but I keep them to myself. Not everything needs to be seen." It was a comment that felt directed to no one, and yet everyone. Rumors, misunderstandings, and the toxic side of fandom. Let's talk about the dark undercurrent. For every joyful taekook video, there were obsessive threads, manipulative edits, and invasive fans digging through their lives for proof. Some fans crossed boundaries, tracking flights, exposing family members, even sending hate to other BTS members for getting between Taehyung and Jungkook. It's easy to forget that idols are human. What does that do to a friendship? When every glance becomes analysis, every absence a scandal. When 2 people can't share a private joke without it becoming a headline. Some insiders suggest that Taehyung and Jungkook made a conscious choice to step back from the spotlight as a duo, to protect not only their peace but their bond. Because what fans celebrated with joy, the industry consumed with calculation. And real friendship? It can't breathe in that kind of air, the silent support. What we don't see, and yet, if you look closely, the connection never really disappeared. During BTS's yet-to-come Busan concert, Taehyung and Jungkook shared a brief on-stage moment. Not loud, not playful, but Jungkook placed a hand on Taehyung's back as they exited the stage. It lasted 1 second, but the gesture was familiar, something lived in. Something that said, "I'm still here." And his solo promotions, Jungkook was often asked what inspired him. He always spoke of the team. He never named names. But in one quiet interview, when asked about the people who believed in his talent before he did, he paused and smiled. There was a Hyung, he knows who he is. Fans immediately wondered, was it Taehyung, too, carries quiet echoes. In a behind-the-scenes cut of his Rainy Days MV, a notebook sits open on his desk. One page reads, in his unmistakable handwriting, "Some people stay in your heart even when they're far away." Is it coincidence? A lyric? A message? Could this be a new chapter? Maybe we've misunderstood the silence. Maybe this isn't a break, but a reset. When Jungkook announced his military enlistment, Taehyung didn't post anything public.
No tweet.
No story. Nothing. And yet, fans spotted him at the enlistment center.
No fotos, no entourage, no branding.
Just one man there for another. Quietly. Just like real friends do. Isn't that what love is? Not always loud, not always on camera, but always present when it matters. The emotional toll of growing up together, what Taehyung and Jungkook shared wasn't just friendship. It was survival. They endured the same sleepless nights, the same stage lights, the same loneliness of hotel rooms in foreign countries. They grew from teenagers into men with the world watching, and somehow, through all of it, they remained connected, even when life pushed them apart. Psychologists who study long-term fame note that childhood fame often stunts emotional growth. But with BTS, the opposite seems to have happened. These boys grew faster. They matured through fire. And perhaps that's why their friendships feel so layered. So hard to define. They are brothers. Not in blood, but in everything that matters more. S.O. What is really happening between them? The answer is simple and complex. And maybe a little disappointing if you're looking for a drama. They're growing. Separately and together. Quietly and painfully. But most importantly, authentically, they are not enemies. They are not a fanfiction fantasy. They are not a marketing product. They are two artists trying to find themselves in a world that rarely allows that. And maybe, in time, they will find their way back to sharing that journey more publicly. Or maybe they won't. Maybe the bond remains sacred by staying silent, but don't confuse distance for absence. Sometimes the strongest connections are the ones you don't see. AS South Korea calls its sons to service. The golden age of BTS is being reshaped not by scandals or chart rankings, but by the ticking clock of mandatory enlistment. Jungkook and Taehyung, once nearly inseparable in the public eye, now find themselves separated by roles, by silence, by time, and by duty. But what does that mean for their relationship? Does military service heal what the spotlight could not? Or does it bury what was never spoken? It's easy to assume that enlistment is a pause button for fame. But for idols, especially idols as legendary as Jungkook and Taehyung, it's more than that. It's a mirror, a crucible. The training grounds strip everything away: fame, filters, styling, staff. You wake up as a person, not a persona. You march in the rain. You sleep shoulder to shoulder with strangers. You answer to hierarchy, not fan chants. It's not a pause, it's a reckoning. And both Jungkook and Taehyung entered this reckoning within weeks of each other. The buzz surrounding their enlistment was expected. Fans mourned, trends exploded, and hashtags like #SeeYouIn2025 soared through the internet. But what went largely unnoticed, what was quietly buried beneath the noise, was how they enlisted. An O-press.
No cameras.
No shared photos. Taehyung entered the Capital Defense Command. Jungkook enlisted as an active duty soldier. Not together. Not side by side. Unlike Jin and J-Hope, or RM and V, who shared some moments, Taekook's entry was remarkably private. But why? Some insiders speculate it was a strategic move, orchestrated to avoid fan frenzy. Others believe it was intentional, a mutual agreement to preserve something sacred. But those close to BTS know the truth is likely more emotional. The moment wasn't about spectacle. It was about transition. And sometimes, goodbyes don't need applause. Still, even in the absence of public display, the signs of their bond emerged in subtle ways. A fan spotted Taehyung's family car near Jungkook's enlistment center. No photos, no confirmation, just a quiet rumor that spread like wildfire. Some armies reported seeing a familiar black hoodie worn by Taehyung, a hoodie Jungkook had once been seen wearing months earlier. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe a message between lines. In one of his final Weverse lives before enlisting, Jungkook said, "Even if we're apart, we're still connected. Always." He was answering a fan's question about missing BTS, but the way he looked at the camera, still, honest, heavy, felt like it was meant for someone else too. For Taehyung, the signs were more poetic. On the eve of his enlistment, he posted a photo of a sunset.
No caption.
But in the sky, clouds curved like gentle waves, mirroring a sketch he once made during a Run BTS episode where he described his safe place as the ocean. And who had he once shared that metaphor with? Jungkook. Even in uniform, stripped of brand names and platinum streaks, they remain artists. And artists speak in symbols. But perhaps the most poignant piece of this story doesn't lie in Taehyung or Jungkook's hands, but in the hearts of ARMY. For over a decade, fans have been more than spectators. They've been archivists, interpreters, guardians of moments. They've watched taekook grow, change, drift, and circle back. And now, as silence stretches longer, the fanbase is split between hope and heartbreak. One fan, who runs a taekook-focused Twitter account with over 200,000 followers, shared, "It's not about romance. It's about connection. The way they looked at each other told me I wasn't alone in feeling deeply. They showed us that being soft with your best friend is okay. That vulnerability between men is okay. I miss that." Another fan from Indonesia told us, "I don't care if they ever post a selfie again. I just want them to be okay.
To still talk.
Even once a year. That's enough for me." What makes taekook different from other idol pairings isn't just chemistry, it's history. It's the way fans grew up alongside them. It's the mirror they held up to so many who felt invisible. To see two young men laugh, cry, argue, lean on each other, and still stand strong gave comfort to millions. Their bond, real or imagined, filled emotional gaps that fandom alone can't explain. It wasn't just shipping. It was resonance. It was people seeing love, gentle, unspoken, unconditional love, between two young Korean men, and realizing it was possible.